All right, let's go ahead and get started. For those of you who I've not met, I'm Maggie. I'm the Community Product Manager for DataHub. Super excited to have you all with us for our May Town Hall. We are going to kick things off. You can see my screen? We're good? Cool. All right, so, sorry, one second. We have a ton to get through today, as always. These are packed with content. We'll do some quick community updates and upcoming release notes. We're bringing in Joshua from Sharp Healthcare as a last minute addition to the agenda. Thanks so much, Josh, for jumping in. He's going to show off Jira and DataHub integration they've been working on over there. Pedro's going to give us a demo of custom ownership types. John and Shirshanka are going to talk about data contracts and how we will soon be supporting them in DataHub. Chris will give us a demo of how you can then bring DataHub into the BI tools that your team is already using. And then last but very not least at all, spoiler alert, my favorite part, we're going to be taking a look at the pulse of the DataHub developer community. We sent out a survey recently, so we'll review that feedback and give you some insight into what we heard, what we're going to be doing, and how we're going to be focusing on the community later in the year. So let's kick things off just with our high-level community updates. In the month of May, we welcomed over 420 new people to the community. This is already out of date from last night. We're at now over 6,700 people in the Slack community with 1,300 or just shy of 1,400 weekly active users. So super active community in there, folks posting across all channels with just shy of 6,000 messages and 500 emoji reactions. You guys know how much I love a good emoji reaction. So plenty of activity happening there. And we're still seeing this very consistent growth rate of people joining the Slack community. Every month it gets higher and higher. Tons of activity happening. We love it. Speaking of, more often than not, folks are coming to the community to get some support on their initial deployments of DataHub. So we like to take a look at, kind of what that support load looks like and kind of what we're seeing from folks. So on the contribution side, we're still averaging around 45 PRs per week. That's consistent with the 4 weeks prior. The throughput of actually merging those, we're a little bit behind there, but the team's been very hard at work and trying to move those things through. And then just from the community side of things in terms of our conversations, we're still seeing around 600 messages per week across our support channels. So this is, again, my shameless plug to jump in and help out if you are able to. We really appreciate when other community members can come in and help one another. It frees up a lot of the bandwidth on the core DataHub team side to make sure that we're pushing through those PRs and getting our contributions in. If you remember earlier this year, Shirshanka and I both spoke at Data Council in Austin. Those recordings are now live and ready for you to watch if you've not seen them yet. I highly recommend taking a look at Shirshanka's keynote. That's right, Shirshanka was the keynote, literally the first keynote of the entire conference. It was so good. Highly recommend that one. And then, of course, I'll plug my own. And if you want to know why the Power Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are on the screen, you'll just have to watch to find out. But that was a really fun talk to give with Kyle from the Great Expectations community. So those are ready for you. QR codes for your scanning convenience. And then, of course, we'll always share out the deck in both the YouTube description for the video and then also in the DataHub community. Speaking of conferences, we are going to be at Snowflake Summit at the end of June. Which also reminds me, I should not forget that we will need to reconsider what we're doing with our town hall date. We'll figure that out. But so Swaroop, our CTO from Acryl Data, is going to be giving a talk on the kind of the shift left approach to modern data governance. So if you're going to be in Vegas in June at Snowflake or otherwise, let us know. Let's hang out. Let's meet up. We'd love to chat with you guys. And yeah, feel free to reach out with any questions at all. All right. Speaking of supporting the DataHub community, again and again, we just have some incredible humans jumping in to help one another out. Massive shout out to these folks. We really genuinely could not support this growing community without you. So we are very appreciative of all the time and energy that you put into helping one another. Let's switch gears over to our upcoming release. We are, whoopsies. We are putting the final touches on 0.10.3. I believe we're either cutting the release today or it will be tomorrow, but these are all of the contributions that are going to be included in this release. We had 163 PRs, 16 first-time contributors, which is crazy to me that we still see this many new folks jumping in every single month, and then also 28 repeat contributors. So again, big thanks to all the folks who took the time to contribute back to the project. And let's take a look at what this is going to include. Shirshanka, do you want to take this one? Do you want me to cover it?
Sure, I can take it.
I'm putting you on the spot.
No worries. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Cool. So project updates, we have 0.10.3 baking right now. Indy is shepherding all the cats and the dogs and all the animals to make sure that we're going to get all our ducks in a row for the release. It's probably going to land later tomorrow. I think that's the plan, right? And it's going to be a big one. I mean, we have all of the user experience stuff that we demoed in the last town hall finally coming together. Data products will be in this release. You'll be able to manage them via YAML as well as via the UI. We've made some small changes, domain entities. We got a lot of feedback about how documentation should be front and center. And so the domain entities now defaults to using the documentation tab as its homepage. Some other smaller changes around search experience, but then moving over to the developer experience side, I think we're very excited that the Confluent schema registry requirement PR is merged in, which means DataHub technically does not need the Confluent schema registry to run anymore. We are working through the next steps on that process, which means making changes to our Helm charts so that in your deployments, you can remove that requirement. And then the next thing would be Quick Start itself would drop the requirement on the schema registry. Now, a lot of people get very confused about this because they feel like, wait, what does this mean? Does this mean I can no longer ingest all of my schemas from Kafka, which are in Confluent schema registry? Not at all. I mean, the Confluent schema registry requirement removal is really about removing the requirement for DataHub to need Confluent schema registry for it to run itself. So if you know, DataHub uses Kafka as its metadata changelog. And as part of that, it used to use Confluent schema registry as the schema repository for the metadata event schemas themselves. So with this change, we're supporting schema registry for DataHub inside DataHub itself, which means you're no longer required to run a schema registry to be able to run DataHub. Now, if you have a schema registry, you already have Confluent, then by all means, connect DataHub to it. We'll get all the schemas and we'll even store some of our own schemas in there. So that's the Confluent schema registry requirement removal. Other things that are pretty exciting and important. Delete CLI finally correctly handles deleting time series aspects. Whoops, we had a small but very impactful bug in there. So we're gonna, that's getting merged in as part of this release. Quick Starts continues to get more stable. I think Maggie has some nice stats later on about what we're seeing on the telemetry side on Quick Starts, volume and things like that. And search customization, this is a big deal. Search is not going away anytime soon, and we are going to make better and better facilities for you to customize your search experience, whether you're an operator of the DataHub platform or you're just a consumer of the search interface. There are a lot of new capabilities in the search tokenizers as well as the matchers for you to get the results that you want. So those are the user experience and DevX pieces. And then, of course, ingestion continues to keep chugging along. A lot of improvements across the board. On the top ones, I would say, are BigQuery, Unity Catalog, and Power BI. And then further down, NiFi supports Kerberos authentication now, and our PII classification capabilities got some improvements around configurable sample size. The S3 connector got some very interesting improvements. It now supports stateful ingestion and also produces the last updated timestamp. So now you can start seeing when your S3 data sets were last updated, and that kind of gives you that operational view of S3 as well. And that's it from me. There was a question on the channel from Christian about the company, Acryl. So for people who don't know, Acryl is a company that I founded 2.5 years ago after LinkedIn, created this to really drive the DataHub project forward and build a commercial solution on top of it. 2.5 years in, I wouldn't change it for the world. It's been just amazing building this project with all of you. We now have a lot of customers, and so now we have a combination of keeping the community growing and the project thriving, and also supporting all of the customers that we have on the Acryl product. So DM me if you have more questions about the company. Happy to chat. There's a bunch of us here as well. So. And as Min has said, we are hiring in many roles. Yes.
We are hiring many, many roles, including DevRel. Yay. Yeah. All right, we are going to move things along. We're joined by Joshua today, who's going to share some of the work they've been doing to integrate Jira and DataHub. Josh, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, thanks, Maggie. Joshua Garza, Sharp Healthcare. This was totally a last-minute thing, so I wish I had something better prepared for you all. But I'll just give you a quick overview. Let me share just a brief blurb about Sharp and why DataHub is so important to us. So we are a 4 acute care hospital and 4 specialty hospital IDN, right? So lots of information going back and forth, lots of different domain groups. So we've got a great opportunity here at Sharp to really leverage domain ownership, data mesh principles when we're dealing with our groups, building out their data sets, and how we can think of scaling everything that we do. One of the key enablers for our data governance framework is DataHub. So DataHub promises to give us that visibility, that impact analysis, just being able to service different user personas within the organization who are looking to us, to our group, to help govern their data sets. So with that, one of the some background on what we've done with Jira, integrating Jira into DataHub, is we were previously on Calibra, and there was a workflow that was built into our Calibra application, which would basically allow a user to come into Calibra, look at a data set, look at a dashboard, figure out that they want to see that, they want to get access to that, so they would hit a button, and that button would generate an email which would then go to a coordinator, who would then go and do all the footwork and say, let me find out who the owner of this data set is, of this dashboard, and let me make sure that they approve Joshua Garza getting access to this data set, this dashboard, or not. So that worked, just kind of a manual intake process that the organization had put together. So when we started looking at DataHub, we realized, wow, we can actually customize this thing. So we can integrate Jira into it and let Jira do all the heavy lifting of that intake process. So that's what we came up with. So let me share a private screen. Give me 1 second. So here's DataHub. This over. Okay, y'all see my screen. So this is just a feature namespace in our Kubernetes environment where we're standing up this POC, this test for our Jira integration. So the idea here is, just like everybody else is accustomed to already, when one of our users will open up DataHub, they see various data sets, dashboards, charts, etc. So the big thing here is now, let's say somebody comes in and they see this MD staff query lookup data set. And they take a look at these data types, at these descriptors, and they say, you know what, this actually looks like something that would service my needs in my group. So we've now given them the opportunity to not only obviously see who those owners are, but then make an access request. So what this does, it just opens up a Jira issue collector. So like I mentioned previously, now we're just allowing Jira to do all that heavy lifting on the intake process. And we're still working on this, but we've been able to get the earn automatically located or loaded into the issue collector. And well, okay, and I will submit this. So what are we gaining by doing this? Well, now somebody can look at this project, this Jira project, and see that somebody has come in and requested access to this dashboard. So now, instead of being email-based, now we're using Jira, and we can create a subtask. We can say, you know what? Now I'm going to subtask this thing out, this request out to the technical owner or the domain owner, and let them go and run with their validation process first. We will come back and let the user know that they've got access to this dashboard or not. So that's basically it, kind of short on a demo side, but like I mentioned, we're still working on this and really looking forward to getting it complete.
Thanks so much, Joshua. And this is a big one. This comes up in the community a fair amount, right? Where people really want to find ways to kind of pull these external workflows into DataHub. So it's awesome to see you guys actually doing that in practice. Also, great shout out, Josh. Josh was a very active member of the community. Comes to a lot of our weekly office hours on Tuesdays. So also kind of shameless plug there. That's a great place to come in, and that's like how we found out about this work that he was doing, right? Because we're kind of like helping with some live troubleshooting, and so it's, for one, really cool to see how folks are coming into office hours for various types of support, but also just a great way to kind of connect with one another. So yeah, on Tuesdays, come on into office hours. You can find out more information in our Slack. Joshua, can you stop sharing? Perfect. Okay. So we are going to move things right along. I will hand it over to Pedro to talk through custom ownership.
Just a quick question, Maggie. There was a question, I think, on the chat about whether this is on a DataHub fork. Joshua, I think that question is for you.
So we did fork the DataHub repo, Shirshanka. One of the developers that I'm working with is actually doing that React modification, and what we're doing basically is packaging up that that image, and I'm loading it into our ECR registry and deploying via Helm. So just downloading the very kind of modular, right?
And I think you're planning to contribute this back to the main project, if I remember correctly, right? You've raised a small PR on this already.
So yeah, we've talked about that already. So we're looking for the best way, Shirshanka, to share this with the rest of the community.
Cool. I think there'll be a lot of interest. Awesome. Moving back to Pedro.
Awesome. All right then. So hey folks, I'm Pedro. I'm part of the Acryl team. Just to show you today a little sneak peek regarding custom ownership types. And with that in mind, you might ask, well, what are they and why do we want them? Well, first things first, DataHub by default in the existing release, and even the one that's upcoming right now, has the concept of 3 types of ownership. You're either a business owner, a technical owner, or a data steward. There's a 4th one, which is called none, basically if none of these apply. And the idea for this feature is to allow you to bring your very own types, such that you use the exact terminology and language within your organizations, and you can bring that into DataHub. So when is this going to be available? Well, it's not going to be available on 0.10.3, but it will be hopefully on 0.10.4. However, as a preview target, it should be available next week on DataHub's demo page, and also available for folks to trial in Quick Start. So to give you a sense of what this would look like, we're basically going to have an extra admin section for managing ownership types. And here you can just create and delete or even modify your types. And then on regular pages, you will see that this owner section is a revamped versus what you have right now. And that's actually something that I can show you live, because I already have the system going up. So in this case, let's take, for example, these sample hive dataset, which is something that you can even see on our demo. Right now, if you look at the owners, you'll see that you have John Doe and Test. Like Test is a technical owner, and you have here some description. But on the John Doe side, you have like some data owner, and it doesn't have anything. Now, with this revamp, what you will see is that they will actually be categorized under different sections. So here, if I add, for example, let's say John Doe, right? And I'm going to say that he's a data steward, he will actually be segregated out between types. This is interesting because it would actually allow you to say, for example, that John Doe not only is an owner, is already an owner, but you can say that he's several types of owners. He can be a business owner, and he can be, in this case, a data owner. So this feature will bring you that sort of flexibility. Obviously, you can delete that if you want. And from an admin section, you just come here, you create a new type. Let's say that rather than all of this, you want something called a product owner. And this would align very well with the idea of data products that we already have in demo for you to trial out. So this will allow you to specify that type of ownership. So this would say, this is a person responsible for a given data product, right? You just create this, it will show up in this page. Here we go. And then you can obviously just go into any page and add your data product owner. And let's say that DataHub is the data product owner for this data set. That's basically it. There's really not much to it. One thing I will note is that this feature is going to be backwards compatible with the old versions, so you should see no breakage on your side. But give it a test as soon as it gets merged, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to move on to data contracts. Earlier this year, Shirshanka and I hosted an AMA with Shirshanka and Chad Sanderson, all about data contracts, talking about what are they, how do we do them, why do we care about them, and I'm curious, like, show of hands, if you know how to use the reactions. Who knows thinks they know what a data contract is? And I am not raising my hand, because every time I think I know, I learn something new. Shirshanka knows, that's great. A data contract is an agreement between a consumer and producer. It is, you're not wrong. How do we do it? How do we do it in DataHub? Shirshanka, lead the way. Tell us your secrets.
So of course we asked, not Google, but ChatGPT, what a data contract is. And we got a response. And this, I think, is a reasonable response. It's a well-formed sentence, right? Refers to an agreement, specification, structure, format, semantics, different systems, mutual understanding. Seems pretty legit. But like most things ChatGPT, it kind of misses some important points, which I think sometimes highlights the danger of kind of using generative AI for everything. So, for example, if we were to just turn on generative AI for all documentation, it would generate documentation that looks kind of reasonable and perhaps passes the first round sniff test, but misses the main point. So I think that's kind of a little bit of a warning for us as we get into the era of generative AI applied towards this world. But I think our take on data contracts is that while all of this is good, the most important part about contracts are that they have to be verifiable. Right? So of course they represent agreements. Of course they represent specifications. Of course the scope includes the structure, formats, and semantics. But if it's not verifiable, then it's not worth putting in the contract. So with that in mind, let's look at what are the verifiable things, right? So we talk about things like schemas. Well, they are verifiable. You can actually check column level nullability. Yes, you can check those things. Column level data checks. Yes, you can check those things. Operational SLAs. Yeah, you can check whether something landed on time. But things like documentation, ownership, tags, you can't really verify whether something is stated correctly, if the documentation is really, really right. It's hard to programmatically verify it. So I'm sorry to disappoint you, but those things are not verifiable. And therefore, according to DataHub, they should not be in a data contract. So everyone take a deep breath and kind of, this particular gentleman here was also very disappointed, and it does kind of feel sad that documentation is no longer important. But that's not quite true. I mean, if you remember data products, right? We talked about it last town hall. They represent collections of assets that are important to you, and you can combine them together in a concept that you want to manage and maintain. And those things actually have all of these things. So if you remember from last town hall, data products have owners, they have tags, they have glossary terms, and they have documentation. So you're not alone. Data contracts are the verifiable things, and data products combine the verifiable and the descriptive and important things to create kind of your curated metadata graph. So the way to think about it is, and quick plug, data products are actually available to use. So try it out. It's coming out in this version of open source DataHub and the next version of Acryl. So you'll be able to, and people have already taken note. And if you go to the demo website, you'll see that there's a revenue dashboard data product that has been created with some pretty good documentation, I would say. So coming back to data products and data contracts, data products represent collection of assets. Some of them are internal, some of them are shareable across team boundaries. They have attributes like ownership, tags, glossary terms, and documentation. And now we're saying data assets should be able to have contracts associated with them. And what are contracts? Well, contracts are collections of assertions, verifiable things that are worth stating and enforcing on these individual data assets. So what kind of assertions are we talking about? We're talking about schema-related assertions. We're talking about SLA-related assertions. Some people call it freshness, and then also data quality-related assertions. So DataHub already has assertions. If you're familiar with our integration with the data quality space, DBT, Great Expectations, or if you have custom DQ tools that you've been building in-house, you can already produce assertion info aspects, which are definitions of the assertion. So it includes like what's the type of the assertion, what are its parameters, and things like that. And then you can also, when you evaluate those assertions, produce assertion run events, which include the results of the evaluation. So did the assertion pass? Did it fail? How many of the things passed? When was this assertion evaluated? Things like that. And as part of the data contracts push, we are adding two new kinds of assertions, the SLA assertion and a schema assertion, which kind of, the SLA assertion essentially provides an assertion that says, here is the SLA for this data set. It lands at this time, every day, every weekday, et cetera, et cetera. And then a schema assertion says, here's what the shape of the data looks like. Here are the fields within it, whether they're required or not, and things like that. All right, so what does this look like end to end? Well, the developer experience would be that as a data producer, you can author your data contract as a YAML file. You can check it into Git, and then those data contracts can be deployed to DataHub, very similar to how we showed the data product YAML file and its deployment into DataHub last time. And as those contracts are deployed into DataHub, those assertions and the contracts that connect those assertions together, become available on DataHub. And then your assertion evaluation ecosystem, whether it's dbt or Great Expectations or SODA or whatever custom data quality tool you've got, can start reporting results about those assertions that you just described. And in the Acryl product, we'll have a data contract operator that responds to those contracts getting registers and starts monitoring and enforcing in some cases just monitoring and reporting results back. So this is what the end-to-end ecosystem for data contracts is going to look like, with DataHub at kind of the center of the definition, storage, and then result storage as well. Quick going back to data products, because this is a highly interrelated concept. Remember data products, you can define a data product as YAML, check it into Git, deploy it to DataHub. Your business user can go in and put in some edits. Those edits can flow back. Very similar plan for data contracts. And we plan to support being able to manage both of them together as well. So if you're already planning to use data product definitions in how you want to manage data products, you'll be able to inline your data contract specifications inside that same YAML file, so that you don't have to maintain two different specifications. They can all be managed as one unified definition. So that way, the person who wants documentation to be managed as code and the person who wants schema assertions to be managed as code, both can be happy and no one has to be sad like that puppy, right? All good. So this is kind of our view on how data contracts, data products, and the whole lifecycle management works. And a lot of people ask us what's going to be in open source, what's going to be in Acryl. And so here's kind of what the roadmap looks like for both of these products. So DataHub is always going to be open in terms of the metadata models, the APIs, the events, and things like that. So the data contracts, data products, the foundational layer is going to be part of DataHub. So the models will be there, the API is going to be there, the change events are going to be there. You'll get all of the SDK capabilities, the YAML format, the Git management, the registry. On top of that, Acryl is going to provide everything you need to actually run this at scale or manage this at scale. So what's hard about data contracts? Sometimes what's hard is you have 10,000 assets in your ecosystem and you don't have enough time to get everyone to write these contracts by hand. So we will be working on an inference engine that produces proposals for these data contracts so that it becomes kind of like a hands-free model for managing data contracts. What else is hard about these things? Usually data producers and consumers need to kind of communicate and have approval workflows where they can propose something and then have an approval go in. So those approval workflows will be in the Acryl product. This kind of follows the same thing that we've done with glossaries. So business glossary approval workflows, for example, live in Acryl. We have an inference engine that can suggest glossary terms. So it's very similar in terms of the spirit, where the concepts live in DataHub and you can work with them over the API. And in Acryl, you have the things that work better across teams and the things that work at scale: inference, approval workflows. In the case of data contracts, enforcements, and in the case of data products, being able to share data products with other teams. So hopefully that gives you a sense of what's coming to open source soon and what's coming to Acryl soon as well. And this is essentially a, Q2, some people actually have different quarterly roadmap, quarterly boundaries. So Q2 for us is ending in July, and Q3 starts essentially 6 months ending in June, and then Q3 starts in July. So that's what we mean by Q2 and Q3 2023. All right. So that's kind of a sneak peek into where we're going with data contracts, how we think of it in terms of data products, what the relationship is between these two concepts and assertions, and then what's coming to open source and what's going to be in Acryl. All right. And now it's demo time. So Chris, I'm sorry, man. This time I'm not doing it with you, but I'm doing it with my other BFF, John. I'll start with on the terminal. This is going to be a little bit of a split demo. I'll show what data contracts look like on the terminal, and then John is going to take over and show what they're going to look like in the UI. Did we lose everyone? Everyone's still here?
We're all still here.
Does anyone have extreme reactions to our take on data contracts, I'll be very interested in hearing from you. Perhaps catch us after the town hall, and would love to hear if there are things in here that don't quite work. All right, moving over to the terminal. Let's look at an example contract. So this is a YAML format for what a data contract will look like. You can always provide an ID, but we don't require it. You can provide a display name. It's really for cosmetic reasons. The most important thing is the entity on which the contract applies. So in this case, I've taken the veritable sample Hive data set. It's our most trustworthy data set, and we thought we should have some contracts around it. The first contract we have here is an SLA contract. It provides, a time at which we want to assert that this data set lands every day, and a time zone. And then we also have a schema contract. And this schema contract essentially uses the JSON schema specification. If you're familiar with it, it's a standard. So we didn't have to invent a new way of defining columns and types. So, there are 3 fields in here, 2 fields in here, foo and bar with different types. One of them is required. And that's, a basic schema specification. You can go nested, you can do whatever you want. This rides on top of the same JSON schema support we have in DataHub already. And then data quality, here's an example of a very simple column range data quality specification. Says that the column that is being covered by the check is field foo, the number type over there, and puts a little range on it. So this is what you would manage as a YAML file. And then you would go over into your terminal. And I've got DataHub running locally, and I'm just going to be updating the data contract using this file. And hopefully it works. Awesome. Love a demo that works. So we updated apparently a data contract. We got an earn back. So now let's see over the API what it looks like. So I'm going to get this back, and I'm going to pipe it up to JQ just so we can see the JSON. And yeah, so it came back with a lot of stuff. So let's see what happened here. First of all, so this guy actually does a quick walk on the main contract earn and brings in everything connected up to the contract. So here it is, our data contract. It's got an aspect called a data contract properties. That's the name right there. And then an array of data set contracts. The first one is the schema contract. And you can see it includes an assertion. So we minted an assertion on the back for you. That assertion is of type dataset schema. This is the new kind of assertion that I was talking about. And that schema assertion includes essentially the schema that we are trying to protect. Included in that is the entity, and we're bringing in that entity definition here in that response. That's why it got super long. That's our sample Hive data set. And then further below, we've got a few other things that are important. We've got the SLA assertion. That's our new model that we're adding as well. It's got a dataset SLA. It says that the dataset should change every day around this time. And if it fails to change, then perhaps raise an alert. So that's why it's a fail schedule. And then there's a data quality assertion, a list of data quality assertions. And I've just got one in there. And as you can see, those concepts have been mapped to DataHub native concepts. So we've got a specific parameter, max value, a min value, and then operators. So these are all modeled concepts in DataHub, and we're kind of mapping between the contract YAML format into the modeled data quality assertion type in DataHub. And then the familiar status aspect, which says that this is a valid contract and has not been deleted. So I'm sorry, folks, this is all I have for you on the terminal. I just proved to you that we can define a data contract as YAML. We can upload it into DataHub and it doesn't complain. And then we can get it back and see that the contract is a list of assertions. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to John. Before I do that, I'll just show you a quick preview of what the contract looks like without doing this deep walk. So if we just do a basic get on the contract entity at the very top without doing that deep walk, you'll see that it's just a very simple contract specification with just a list of assertions, a data quality assertion, a schema assertion, and an SLA assertion. So it's very simple at the top level, a list of assertions, collection of assertions, and then the assertions themselves carry most of the important stuff. All right, so now I'll stop sharing and have John show you what it looks like on the UI.
All right, thank you, Shirshanka. And I don't know if everyone realizes what a historic moment you all just witnessed, but I was officially elevated to BFF status of Shirshanka. That's pretty cool. So I'm going to talk about how these are going to show up in the UI here. We've got our sample Hive data set. And I'm going to talk through kind of what we think about when we think about a contract. So, we're looking at this new tab called Data Contract. And what this really represents is the commitment of the producer of this data to the consumers who may be using it. And so on the left side here, you're going to see what we're calling a schema contract. And really, we have a schema tab here. So how does this differ? Well, this actually defines the fields that are kind of made public for consumption by the producer officially. So this schema may contain hundreds of fields or tons of fields, but half of them may be deprecated. And these are the fields that represent the publicly consumable fields for the data set that have kind of that producer backing on them, kind of like public and private methods in a Java class. So we have a schema contract, and you can see that we've enforced it against the real schema. So we say that, yes, these columns do exist, they're types matched, and there's actually some other properties as well, like the required status that we can verify here to run this schema assertion. On the right side, we have the second couple of things that Shirshanka pointed out, the SLA, which basically says how often this table should be changed. In this case, I'm just showing a simple every 5-minute SLA. You can see that the last time this thing actually updated was 2 years ago. So obviously we are not meeting our contract because of that. So, we're out of compliance. And then we have data quality. So these are specific rules or validations defined on either the table itself, like a volume data quality check, which may specify something about the row count that should be in the table, or field or column level checks. In this case, we have a few column level checks here. And what you'll notice is, as Shirshanka mentioned, like these concepts are very closely related to assertions. So all of these assertions actually can be found here in the assertions tab, and you'll notice this new indicator, this blue icon. And basically what that means is that this assertion has been elevated or selected to be part of the data contract for the consumer. Now, again, you may have tons of assertions here, and not all of them necessarily are part of that contract. So for example, this is a schema type assertion, which represents the schema contract. And there's an SLA type assertion here, which represents the SLA contract. In the long term, what we hope to allow is you to be able to seamlessly kind of manage the contract through the UI as well. So doing things like selecting which assertion should comprise the contract for this data set, and then having that sync back into your definitional layer as well, ideally. So this is a sneak preview of where things are going. I think we're going to see a lot more rich development around this concept of a contract, but we definitely want the community to be part of this. So let us know if this makes sense to you, if you can understand how you could apply this and get value out of this, if we had it tomorrow in the product. And let's work on iterating towards the ideal end state. All right, with that, I think, Shirshanka, I'll hand it back to you to wrap us up.
Cool. Some really great questions coming in over chat, some over DM, some on the public channel. A lot of questions around whether there is a one-to-one relationship between data sets and contracts, and also similarly, a one-to-one relationship between a data set and a schema contract. We'd like to hear from you. We're actually keeping the model as flexible as we can get it so that we don't make any decisions that we cannot back ourselves out of. So in fact, the first PR that we're going to raise will have a one-to-one relationship between data sets and contracts, as well as between contracts and schemas and SLAs and things like that. So you get as much plurality as you need, while the happy path will be, one-to-one generally. So we'll try to say, hey, most cases, you'll generally have just one contract, one type of this thing, but we'll allow for having multiplicity because we know that the world is way more complex than we think it is. So Definitely keep the feedback coming. Find us on Slack. I think that's the best way to give us feedback. And yeah, keep the feedback coming. This is going to be going out into open source, as I said, on the foundational piece, and then coming to the Acryl product in terms of the enforcement, the inference layer, and the proposal and approval layers will come over there. And we'll keep the APIs open. So if you're doing custom, your own data quality tools, you're using Great Expectations or DBT, and you want to integrate all of that signal in, that'll always continue to be open. All right.
All righty.
Maggie.
Thanks so much, guys. Data contracts for the win. We're in a new era. There's like a before and after John BFF era, and data contracts just happen to be at the crux of it. We'll remember this day for at least, I don't know, another couple hours or something, right? All right, we're winding down. We have a couple more sessions to go. Chris, I'm going to hand it over to you to show us some recent work on our Chrome extension.
All right. Thanks, Maggie. Yeah, tough to follow data contracts. Very, very cool, guys. All right. Sharing my screen. Let's get this out of the way and get this slideshow going. Cool. Yeah, hey, everyone. I'm back again to talk to you about our Chrome extension and some of the updates that we made to it. So you may remember a few town halls ago, we actually talked about this Chrome extension that we are hoping to create soon that DataHub users could then use to get DataHub insights right inside of their source systems themselves. Well, today I'm here to tell you that is now a reality. In fact, we currently have a Chrome extension built and maintained by the Acryl team up on the Chrome web store that anyone can use today. While this extension is Acryl themed, the functionality is the same and works with any up-to-date open source deployment as well. Right now, this extension only supports Looker integration, but very soon we're also supporting Tableau, both of which I'm going to show you in a live demo today. So without further ado, let's just jump into that demo and show you guys a little bit about this thing. So first off, when you download the Chrome extension from the store, you're going to need to configure what your DataHub domain is, so the Chrome extension knows where to look. So if I click on my little extensions tab, I can see my DataHub Chrome extension. And for this demo, I'm just going to do localhost 3000 because I got some data on there that I want to show you guys. And then if I click this little settings icon, it'll take me to a full page settings page where I can then reconfigure the domain here. I can set up any custom configurations as well. The biggest thing here that I would pay attention to is this custom domain. So if your organization is using a custom domain for Looker or Tableau or any of these BI tools, as opposed to the classic SaaS default domain, you can always configure that here just to make sure that this extension works for whatever setup you guys have. One final thing is before using this extension within the source system, you just need to make sure that you're logged into DataHub in your browser. So I'm going to go back to Looker here, and then we're going to go to a dashboard to show you guys what this is. Oh, I don't have anything in favorites. Show you guys what this looks like. So when you go to a page that we think we can show you insights on, such as a dashboard here, we have a nice little floating button that says Data Insights over here on the bottom. If I click that open, we can now see all this great information about this specific dashboard in Looker, but seeing that DataHub information right here at the same time. So we got our documentation, we got owners, tags, glossary terms, domain, even data products. Shout out to data products and then data contracts. But yeah, so you can see that if I have some questions about this sort of thing, I can always check out this Chrome extension on the side and get some great DataHub information. This also works with explores. So I'm just going to take you guys to a quick explore. So let's go to best of breed content. We love our long tail companion stuff. So if I check this out, you can see same thing. It works with data sets on Looker as well. All right. So that's just it showing with Looker. Now I want to show you guys the new thing, which is Tableau. So I'm going to take you over here. And while I walk you through Tableau, I'm going to let's do a little scenario to make this a little bit more lifelike. So let's say I'm a business analyst and I'm about to start digging into a new workbook that I pulled up here to do a new set of analyses that I'm performing. Right now, I don't necessarily know a ton about this workbook, but I know that it's important in our organization. Thankfully, with our Chrome extension that I can open up over here, I have all that information that I'm looking for, and I can see something like, for example, I can see the owners of this. So if I know if I have any questions, I can go directly to those owners, and anything like that. But I can also see like there's PII glossary term added to this. So I know that this workbook contains some sensitive information. I see the domain that this is relevant to. So I might know like, okay, who are the people, domain experts that I can chat with about this sort of thing. Yeah, let's dig into this workbook a little bit more and do like for where I would actually be doing analysis. So let's check out this dashboard. Once in this dashboard, I can yet again check out DataHub Insights in the extension to see if there's anything I should know about before really trusting this and getting in on my analysis. And the first thing that I'll notice right up here is, boom, we have a little warning icon saying there's some data quality issues impacting this dashboard. So of course that gives me a little bit of pause for concern because I'm trying to use this dashboard to do some business analysis and I want to make sure this data is good. So let's expand the details to get some more information. So right now it's saying that we have one data source that's coming in that this, what's it called? This dashboard uses that's upstream of it that has 3 of 5 assertions failing. Definitely a little concerning. I'm not quite sure if I can trust this guy, but let me actually go into DataHub itself and see a little bit more information about this thing. So here I can see who the owners are. It's actually me right now, but let's ignore that. So if, in theory, I could ask the owner, like, what's the deal with these failing assertions? Is this a data set that I can trust? Can I trust the downstream sources from this data set? On the contrary, I can also check out the validations tab and see if I can make heads or tails of this situation for myself. So yeah, here I'm seeing a non-null check fails. I'm seeing a couple other concerning failing assertions. So honestly, I'm like, there might be some data that's corrupt in this data set. Maybe it's not safe to be using. I think I might have to wait until I have a little chat with the owner and make sure that it's cool and safe to use. Probably the smart call. All right. So now while we're in Tableau, I showed you workbooks, I showed you dashboards, and just for the sake of the demo, I'll show you that also works for charts. So we can go to an individual chart. We can open up the extension here. And you'll see that there's still upstream issues. It's that same data set because this chart was used in that dashboard. So the same data set's upstream. All right. I think that's the end of my specific demo. Let's go back to the slideshow. Okay, yeah, so one thing I'd also like to mention is that if you are using the Acryl deployment, so if you're on Acryl as opposed to just open source, you'll actually also see any active incidents on data sets that are upstream being raised as a warning in this like data quality issues section as well. So you can see a little side-by-side comparison of what it looks like in the Acryl version versus in the open source version over here on the right. Okay. And then, yeah, so now that you all have a little better understanding of what this Chrome extension is all about, I'm happy to say that we're not stopping at Looker and Tableau. In fact, we also have our eyes set on Power BI, Snowflake, BigQuery, and more, I will say, in the very near future. So all of those on this call, keep your eyes peeled. More updates soon. All right, folks, I think that's it for me and my update for the DataHub Chrome extension. Thanks for your attention as always. And yeah, keep your eyes open for more updates around support for Tableau, as well as all the other sources coming in the next few weeks. Back to you, Maggie.
Amazing. And also want to give a big shout out to new Acryl team member, Josh. This was one of his first contributions in the very few weeks that he's been on the team, specifically the Tableau integration. So welcome, Josh, and thank you for your hard work. We have one more session. I'm making the game time decision. There's so much conversation happening around data contracts. I'm going to pause on the Pulse of DataHub Pulse of DataHub developer community review, and instead I'm going to record that async and I'll post it in announcements for everybody to see. It'll be a 5-minute or so presentation, but honestly, I don't really want to rush through it because there's a ton of really great insights in there. So instead, let's use the last couple of minutes for any questions that are left unanswered. Feel free to go off of mute, raise your hand, say hi, and if you need to drop, thank you all for your time and your patience and your attention. We are always so happy to see your lovely faces and names in Zoom. So I know there was a question here around, Lucas, you asked around the Chrome extension for other types of integrations. So exactly what Chris said, we're going to be looking into basically any like web-based tool or like database that we can integrate with. So we can extract or overlay that rich metadata in those environments. So more to come there. And also great signal. I'm really surprised to see so many folks, couple of folks suggesting superset. That one hasn't personally been on my radar, but thanks for letting us know, and we'll make sure that we loop that one in. All right. Are there any questions live that folks want to ask?
Maggie, I saw a great slide on the community stats. Would you mind just presenting that one slide?
Just that one lonely slide, huh? Yeah, I'll give a little spoiler. So it has been a wild couple of years in this community, folks. We have 7,600 people in our Slack community, just shy of 2,000 organizations that we know, that we can kind of tell. All time to our code base, we've had 386 code contributors, 7,700 GitHub stars, which is also wild. And then on the telemetry side of things, we see around 2,000 unique users running Quick Start. So that means that 2,000 people a month are running Quick Start. Like, I can't comprehend that. That is so wild to me. And we also see around 1,000 DataHub instances running in production servers. So yeah, I'm in the session, or not in the session I'm going to record, but we are going to have an associated blog post where we dig into this a little bit more to kind of understand what's going on there. But it boggles my mind how far we've come in such a short amount of time. Shirshanka, did you have any other commentary? You just wanted to show that?
No, I think it's just amazing to see that there's more than 1,000 companies using DataHub in production. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. Remember when it was just 100 of us in Slack wondering what is this thing going to be?
Definitely remember those days.
All right, folks. If there are any other questions, oh, sorry, did I interrupt someone?
I was just going to say that there's still quite a few very interesting conversations going on about data contracts, where it applies. Since this Zoom chat is going to disappear, please carry this over into Slack. Maybe, Maggie, we need to create a new channel for this, for just data contract discussions. And we can kind of announce it in the main channels and have people
we can do that
there and give us feedback on the model, what they saw today. John and I definitely need active feedback right now as we're kind of pushing forward on this, and the rest of the team as well. Would love to hear from you.
All right, folks. Happy May. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you for your time and your attention, and we will talk to you all soon.
And meet us in
Adios.
Vegas. Meet us in Vegas if you're there.
Oh yeah, come hang out with us in Vegas. It'll be nice and warm. See you guys.